All right, he was caught in a Ferrari in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, caught in a bus in Speed, caught in a mayor's office in Spin City, and so much more, including HBO's Succession that just wrapped up season 1. You should go download it or watch it, stream it on HBO Now, HBO Go, iTunes, Google Play, other retailers. Already been picked up for season 2 because it's an incredible show, an incredible cast, including Alan Ruck. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. This is a fun show where what do you get when you see this script and see the arc of your character? I don't want to get too deep into it for anybody who hasn't seen this show about a dysfunctional family around Brian Cox, who's kind of, I guess, like a Rupert Murdoch type character here.
Yeah, something like that.
You know,
yeah.
So when you see your character blossom, if you will, in a way, the way that it does.
It's kind of a license to steal. I mean, parts like this for me come around maybe once every 10 years or 15 years, and it's just an individual who's really damaged, has a big wall of money around him, and is really not responsible to anybody or anything. And all these people, anything can come out of their mouths because there's no repercussions, you know. They march to a different set of rules, or none at all.
None at all.
Yeah.
Certainly, when the familial bonds don't appear to be, there's not much hugging. You're not hugging it out. You're not hugging it out.
Well, you know,
very
everybody
much.
wants daddy's love. It's just not coming around. You know, it's not readily available.
So I just wanted to point that out because I don't want to make it seem like you're a damaged individual because you're a Browns fan deep down inside, Alan. Right?
I was born in Cleveland. I was born in Cleveland, and when I was a boy, I used to watch the Browns with my dad. It was something that we did together, and I told you earlier that we would be Browns fans until they choked, and then we would become Pittsburgh fans at that point because, you know, there was the days of Pittsburgh and Dallas back then.
Right. And so now to hear that normally wouldn't be, you know, acceptable. But I guess, you know, obviously back then when you're rooting for a team like Cleveland,
but we had relatives in Pittsburgh, you know, so it's something we could.
It is close. I mean, that's where you flew into this past time, right? You flew into Pittsburgh.
Well, we tried, yeah,
or you
Pittsburgh.
tried to, right? Getting to the Hall of Fame. We go to the Hall of Fame every year down there in Canton, and anytime somebody from the Pittsburgh area gets inducted, you see, you know, if Jim Kelly or when Montana went in, and obviously, you know, Namath, those guys from the Pittsburgh area, you can see a large Pittsburgh contingent down there.
Contingent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tri-River people.
So you're sort of Brown / Steeler fan.
Yeah,
right,
that's how it was in my house.
How many people just automatically think you're a Red Wings fan based on your character from Ferris?
They all
Bueller's
ask
Day
about
Off?
that. That was something that Hughes made up. That was some backstory about Cameron. He just figured that the relationship with the father was so bad that he had a really good relationship with his grandfather, who this never showed up in the picture.
Right.
Grandfather lived in Detroit, went to games with the grandfather, and that's why he wore that jersey.
So that had nothing to do with if you had a choice. Did they give you a choice at all? Like
No. I was not consulted.
You were not. Would you have
about
chosen
the wardrobe.
Would you have chosen a Browns jersey if you
Probably
were given a
not.
choice?
Probably not. Red Wings is cooler.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, it's a sweater,
Yeah,
as they say in hockey.
Yeah.
So do people assume you're a Cubs fan because of that film?
And
as
I
well?
am.
Okay, you are.
Yeah, because I went to the University of Illinois, and right after school, I moved up to Chicago, and then this was back in the days when there were no lights in Wrigley Field,
Yes.
and everything was like a picnic. You had to go in the afternoon, and you sat in the bleachers and ate Smoky Links and, you know, watched the Cubbies. And
Right.
yeah. And so the up and down and finally the eventual triumph. I was in Chicago. I was working on a show called The Exorcist. We were in Chicago a couple of years ago when they won.
And what was that?
5 million people.
It's
I
incredible.
don't know where they came from.
From everywhere.
From everywhere. And completely civil. I mean, it was just a great celebration of baseball and love.
So you're not a Red Wings fan, but you are in fact a Cubs fan.
This is true.
Well, it must have been great for you to be in town for something like that to happen. For
We
you
were filming, and the crew was watching while we were filming, and they'd be like, because they couldn't make any noise.
You couldn't.
Yeah. Because
I see.
and then cut, and then everybody go wild,
Go crazy. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean that is truly, you know, once in a lifetime situation. It's interesting that you call Succession a once every 10, 15 years role for you. I mean, because you've been in some pretty iconic stuff here, Alan. I mean,
I've been lucky. Yeah, I've been really lucky. Yeah,
being on that bus in Speed.
That was fun.
So
that was a fun gig.
Did you ever come across Dennis Hopper? Because obviously Dennis wasn't on the bus.
No,
so.
I didn't. I saw him once at the premiere party. And he really didn't know who I was. He was like, he went like, he didn't know.
He had no earthly idea, huh?
No. That was a fun job. The 105 freeway had just been completed.
Right here?
Right here,
Yeah.
but had not yet been opened. So we made a deal with the state that Fox Pictures made a deal that was our back lot for 6 weeks. And we had about a half a dozen different buses that did different tricks. And it was just,
So you broke in the 105 freeway?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah? You gave it a dry run?
Yeah, we did. With many buses.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And the 105 for the first time.
Yeah.
And many buses. What was it like on the set with John Hughes for you? Ruck?
He was a complicated guy. He was sort of a genius. I had met him once in Chicago a couple of years before Ferris Bueller. He was going to do The Breakfast Club as an indie, and I went in and I read for him on that. And then he met Molly Ringwald on that picture during that time, and he wrote 16 Candles for her over a weekend.
Over a weekend,
like that. And then so then I did this play in New York with Matthew Broderick, and he was offered Ferris Bueller. And I auditioned for the casting people, and I went back and I read for John with Matthew. So I already knew John a little bit. Matthew and I were already friends. It was just a good bit of luck.
From Biloxi Blues.
From Biloxi Blues, yeah.
And so, interesting. Which part did you read for in The Breakfast Club?
Bender. It was not. I was not right for it at all. The Judd Nelson. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, were you just not enough of a bad guy? Is that what you're saying? Like I don't kind of have that face. You know what I'm saying? I don't intimidate anybody. You're more Cameron than Bender.
I don't intimidate my kids. Nobody.
Yeah, I know. I had one shot at being a reality TV host a couple of years ago, and the show required me to be mysterious. One and done. The reality show. I don't have. You know what I mean? Like I'm not.
No mystery.
I'm not that.
Yeah, I guess me either.
Way,
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions from your IMDb as well as internet. We usually do here with a celebrity guest.
All right.
A celebrity true or false here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Celebrity true.
Keeping it real.
Or false.
All right, first question for you, sir. You were 29 years old when you were filming Ferris Bueller's Day Off. True or false?
This is true.
You were 29 years old?
Well, when I was
actually, like you were 19.
When I was 19, I looked like a fetus. So, it kind of it just progressed. Yeah. Yeah, I'm knocking on Geezer Hood's door right now.
Alan. It's 29?
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that.
Well, Broderick was 25. The only one that was really a teenager was Mia Sara, who I think had just turned 18. Maybe she was 19. But she was actually a teenager. The rest of us were all in our 20s. And when the publicity lady from Paramount found out how old I was, she almost choked on her own spit.
Is that right?
Yeah, because she was like, we'll tell people you're 25. That's okay, because Matthew's 25. That's okay.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, she was scared.
And so, on...
No Tiger Beat magazine for me.
It's all worked out. When I would be doing highlights with my compadres Steve Mariucci and Deion Sanders on the NFL Network, whenever Adrian Peterson carried the ball, we would go, Peterson. Homage to you. Whose voice were you doing when you were talking in Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Okay, Matthew and I had done this play, Biloxi Blues, and we were directed by this wonderful guy who's since passed away named Gene Sachs. He was 65 then, and we drove him crazy because we were always screwing around, we were cutting up, and he gets so mad at us. We were afraid we were going to give him a heart attack because he'd get real red in the face and say, I don't believe his soldiers. I don't believe you're going to go die in Italy, And so Hughes said to me, I need a voice. Give me a dad voice, an authoritarian voice, right? And so I didn't tell Matthew what I was going to do because Matthew was constantly walking around backstage imitating Gene. So that was me imitating Matthew, imitating Gene. And I just sprung it on him just to see if I get a laugh out of him, and then it worked.
Rooney?
Yeah.
Did you ad-lib the Pardon My French? Don't do the whole line here, but did you ad-lib that, the Pardon My French?
Well, Hughes, and this is a fun way to work he was very confident. It's the same way we work on Succession. You do it as scripted once, and then they'll say, we have some other lines. You want to try these? You want to try these? In additional takes. And then usually there's one take where they just say, make it up. Just give us whatever, So yeah, Hughes is say, pardon my French. Call him an a-hole. You know, I mean, it's,
Pardon my French.
yeah, you know, shouting lines at me, you know. It's a fun way to work.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Second true or false, celebrity true or false here for Alan Ruck. The Ferrari 25 GT California that your character's dad owned was not actually a Ferrari in real life. True or false?
That's true. They were crap. They were kit cars because we couldn't, at that time, that car, if anybody had wanted to rent it to us, and this is such a long time ago, it was probably worth about $400,000 then. Okay. And so we couldn't even, first of all, you have to find somebody that's willing to rent it to you.
Right.
And then the insurance just to keep it still on a movie set was astronomical. So they said, we're never going to be able to afford this. So they had some fiberglass replicas made that were put on Mustang chassis. And they gave us a lot of trouble. There's one scene where we go to collect the car after we've had our big day, and the guys bring the car down in the parking garage. They turn the car off. We have a little bit of dialogue, and we go to start it up and take off. 16 takes, because when it would come down, they would turn it off, and then we'd get in the car, not going anywhere, you know? And it drove everybody crazy. So when we sent there were three. There was one that was souped up for the stunt guys. There was the one that we used, and there was the one that was just a shell that we sent out the window. And when we did that, the whole crew just erupted in cheers. You know, yeah, you know, enough.
Last one for you. Emilio Estevez was originally offered the role of Cameron. Is that true?
This is true. And I think they wanted Anthony Michael Hall to play Ferris. But both of those guys had done, Anthony Michael Hall, he'd done maybe 4 movies with Hughes at that point. It's not a bunch. He wanted to move on. And I think that, Emilio was offered Repo Man. Remember that picture?
Of course.
Yeah. And so they wanted to go do different things. And so then they picked Broderick, and then I wrote his coattails.
Well, as a 20
into that picture.
As a 29-year-old. And then now Succession, Alan Ruck. What is it like working with Brian Cox? I'm such a big fan of his, man. I mean,
everybody on this show is incredibly funny, incredibly talented. They're all sweethearts, which is great because we're a bunch of bastards.
Even Kieran Culkin.
Could
not be more off
No,
the rails.
he's a sociopath on the show.
Right.
But just funny and lovable, which balances everything out, you know, and adds a little bit of that humanity seeps through all the wretchedness, you know? So maybe at some, you know, people were complaining at the beginning of the season, there's nobody that's likable, nobody to root for. But maybe after a while, we sort of will grow on people. You know,
but Brian Cox at the
I love
center
him.
of it
You know, he's a world-class actor. He's incredibly generous, and I find this with people that are at the very top of sort of the heap. They tend to be very generous, and they're all about the storytelling. They're just there because they love to do what they do, and that's all it is. We're just telling stories, you know, and no drama. The drama is in front of the camera. It's not off stage, which is the way you want it.
Of course, and HBO Succession, again, the first season's already done, airing on HBO, but you can catch it on HBO Now, HBO Go, iTunes, Google Play, other retailers already renewed for second season. Congratulations on
Thanks,
that.
buddy.
You got it. Alan Ruck here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.